Hello. Hello. I'm live. I'm set up so that once I get I'll wait until I get 10, 15 people in here. Although it's a very unusual time to be on right now because it's dinner time for a lot of people. Plus other parts of the country may not even be home yet. Move this over here a little. That won't work. I'm making some adjustments. I will read once I get a few people in the room. I will read chapter 1. Are you going to start of the Genesis experiment, which I'm now doing as a novel, and I want to be able to do for release this summer. Um, and if you find this story intriguing, then I ask that you please support it with a donation in any amount at badben.com/Genesis. And I'll give it a couple minutes for some people to get in here. And then I'll take you on a little tour here through chapter 1 of the Genesis experiment. The novel is going to be approximately 100,000 words. Hi, Archer. Archer, by the way, for anybody that's wondering, is feeling much better.
Archer,
as he attacks me.
don't make us have to go inside, because I will go inside.
So, how's everybody doing tonight out there in Bad Ben land or your own land? Well, I hope. We have a hello, Daniel Barry Sports Highlights. Yo, Becky had a long day at the farm. She's exhausted. What's going on at the farm this time of year? How are you guys protecting against this avian flu? Bird flu. I know that zoo we shot at for Bad Ben Undead, they canceled like events because of stuff. Hello, Janaea. Haven't seen you in a little while. All right, let me get on to reading. By the way, Becky has invested into the, God bless you, into the Genesis experiment. So thank you. What the hell? She's exploding over there. She divorced me for the biggest part of today. She didn't feel good today. She didn't go out with us. We didn't see her. She did not make an appearance until like damn near
3:00.
It was 3:00.
I had a migraine.
All right, folks, let me read you this beginning of the Genesis experiment. Get your opinion and see if I can pique your interest in it. Look how gray my hair is, Hop.
It's hot.
It's completely gray. All right, forward. Christianity existed in Iraq for centuries, its origins dating back to when the region was known as Mesopotamia. Adam and Eve are believed to have been from Iraq, and the Garden of Eden is believed to have been in southern Iraq. Mesopotamia is considered by many scholars to be the birthplace of civilization, which is ironic considering how uncivilized it became in recent years. The rise of Islam caused Christianity in the region to dwindle. Christians fled to avoid persecution, but eventually, under the rule of Saddam Hussein, anti Christian violence was kept under control. There were estimated to be 1 million Christians living in Iraq at the time of the 1991 Gulf War, dropping to 800,000 during the 2003 Iraq War. A decade later, during the Iraq War with ISIL, Christians faced execution if they did not convert, and many more fled the country. ISIL was finally defeated in Iraq in 2017, and Christians were free to practice their religion, but few remained in the country. The Catholic Church seized upon this opportunity to make a bold move. They intended to reintroduce Christianity, specifically Catholicism, into parts of the country where it once thrived. It was not widely publicized, but under the direct supervision of the Vatican, small parishes were opened throughout the country. St. Narcisse was one of those parishes. Chapter 1. Al-Qur'an was a small town located in southern Iraq near where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers crossed. Tigris, I think is how it's pronounced. On the outskirts of the town was a small, albeit busy, marketplace where vendors of all sorts sold their goods. At the very end of the marketplace was St. Narcisse, a Catholic parish in a small, mud-built structure. A sign once hung on the door, identifying it as a parish, but it had been defaced so many times it was removed. Even the cross above the entryway was removed after being torn off repeatedly. The priest assigned to the microparish was Father Omar Abad, a Saudi by birth. Each day he walked through the marketplace to the parish, stopping to buy a cup of tea and biscuit from one of the vendors. He was always cordial to everyone he passed, but they didn't treat him the same. Nearly all of them were Muslim and despised his presence. The way he was treated was sad, but his faith was strong, and their dirty looks and lack of acceptance did not dissuade him. Every evening, he would knock on the doors of the people living nearby, hoping to be invited in to share the gospel. Most never opened their doors to him, and the few that did often admonished him. He clung to the rare positive experience he would have, like the man that told him, "I admire your courage and wish you well," even though the conversation ended with him being asked to not come calling again. When he would pray, he would ask God to open their hearts to the word and at least make them willing to listen. The bishop that gave him this assignment told him that many of the citizens here lived through the period when being anything except a member of Islam was forbidden. Despite a solid past rooted in Christianity, it was a distant past, and recent history was full of people executed for not converting to Islam. Dressed in black with a priest's collar not only made him stand out to those he passed, but it also made him a target. Father Obad was a humble man, however, and didn't consider himself brave for representing the church. He considered himself honored. He, like many fellow priests on these remote assignments, would pray for God's protection while doing his work. Their superiors, all the way up to the Holy Father, would also pray for their safety and success. Omar was so devoted to his mission that each day he would make the trip to St. Narcisse, open the door, and wait, hoping someone would visit. He made himself available daily for confession and even dressed in the proper attire to perform Mass, although no one ever attended. Each day he carried with him that cup of tea and in a bag a biscuit he bought in the marketplace. It wasn't for him, however. It was for the blind beggar that sat near his parish every day on a mat. Hello, my friend, Omar would say in the beggar's native tongue. A beautiful day, praise God. It is, the beggar would reply, raising his dark tan face towards Omar as if he could see him with his cloudy gray eyes. Praise be to Allah. He would then hold out his hands to receive the tea and biscuit Omar always brought him. You seem well, Omar said to the only person he saw on a regular basis that would talk back to him and not slam a door in his face. I am, thank you, he replied. He then pointed a bony finger in the direction of the nearby parish. Were you expecting company today? Omar looked to the right and raised a hand to shield the sunlight. There, in front of the heavy wooden parish door, was a young boy with a stick drawing in the sand. Omar walked towards him and could see the sand he pushed around with the stick was dark and wet like mud. Hello, my child, Omar said as he approached. Him getting closer should not have been a surprise. He didn't sneak up, but the young boy reacted as if startled. I'm sorry, Omar said. The child then pointed at the thick, stained sand that appeared to originate from inside the parish under the door. Omar bent down and placed his finger in the sand, raising it to have a look. It was red and thick. Omar quickly straightened up and looked left, then right, to see if anyone was watching. Only the blind beggar looked in his direction. What is it? The young boy asked. Go home, son, Omar said, placing his hand on the boy's shoulder and gently pushing him aside. He did not want to alarm the child. It was blood, and whoever put it there was sending him a message to leave. Whatever was on the other side of the door, it would not help his cause if a child saw and told others. Omar removed a keychain from his pocket that had only two keys, one to his room in the village and one to the parish. The windows were unbroken, and this door, which was locked, was the only entrance into the parish. He started to push the key into the lock and was startled by a loud flapping sound overhead, which caused him to drop the keys. He looked up, and on the cross above the door, I gotta highlight that because. And on the cross above the door, a white dove had landed. Unaware if doves were native to this region or not, all Omar knew was that he had never seen one here. He picked up the keys, which were covered in the sticky, blood soaked sand, and was again startled, this time by the beggar holding a napkin in his hand that had been wrapped around his biscuit. Here, the beggar said, pushing the napkin into Omar's hand. How the beggar without sight knew where Omar's hand was to give him a napkin, or that he even needed a napkin, was something Omar was not pausing to figure out. He grabbed it, wiped off the parish key, unlocked the heavy wooden door, and pushed. Sunlight flooded into the room, moving in a wave from the entrance up to the altar as the door swung open. The parish had 4 rows of chairs with 8 chairs in each row, split down the middle. The blood trail went all the way up to the front of the parish, up the center aisle to the altar, which was draped in a white cloth that was stained red. Atop the altar was the apparent source of the blood, a 2 foot tall marble statue of Christ crucified. Omar slowly walked up the aisle, being careful not to step in or on the blood. He worried that the person responsible for this might still be in here, but the tiny room offered no place for them to hide or no other way to enter other than the front door. When he reached the altar, he looked closely at the statue of Christ. Blood streaks were visible from the depiction of spikes through the hands and feet that attached Christ to the cross, from the hole in the statue's side and from the crown of thorns. His attention drawn to the statue and increasing unrest outside and increasing unrest outside went unnoticed. The child was returning, this time with a group of men from the marketplace. The beggar stepped inside the parish and pushed the door shut, latching it. "They will get in," the beggar warned. Omar lifted the statue and pulled off the blood-stained sheet covering the altar. He used it to wipe the statue clean. He then dropped the sheet onto the floor and with his foot tried to clean up the blood in the aisle. All it did was smear it around. The villagers began knocking on the door, then pounding. Omar rushed to the altar, intending to hide the statue, but when he got close to it, he froze. The statue he had wiped clean was now covered in blood again, oozing from the wounds carved into the marble. When he first entered the parish, he thought someone had put the blood on the statue and down the aisle to discredit the parish and enrage the locals. But now, right before his eyes, the marble statue appeared to was bleeding on its own. Chapter 1. Could you hear it down there? What did I say? Repeat everything. Okay, I'm kidding. That's chapter 1. Now, what goes on to happen is the parish will unfortunately I don't want to give too much away. But the blood from that statue the statue winds up in the United States and in the hands of a priest whose twin brother is a geneticist. And he's trying to figure out what the blood is. Like if it's human blood or if Janaea said that was amazing. Wasn't that sweet of her?
Yes.
Oh, Janaea, you're such a sweetheart. And it I'm trying to reposition myself. I got a lot of dog activity. So the brother takes a sample of the blood to test it, and he uses it in an illegal experiment called the Genesis experiment, or human cloning. So he creates a clone from the blood taken from a statue of Christ that appeared to be bleeding. So the question is that blood the blood of Christ? And if it is a clone created from it a clone of Christ? And if it is, does this represent the second coming of Christ? Folks, if you like stories like the Da Vinci Code, Stigmata, so many other mysterious, suspenseful stories, you'll love the Genesis experiment. And I ask that you consider supporting it. I've got a goal I'm trying to reach, which will cover the first printing. And anyway, that is it. So I hope those of you, there's a lot of you in here right now that watch this broadcast live. And I hope over the next hours, overnight, tomorrow, the rest of you will watch this broadcast and be intrigued by it. Because I would love to do this for you. So anyway, why don't I let you go for now? And I will be back this week begging. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you'll join this ride. Thank you much.